Well, the new wheels are officially on the Mustang. You might be able to barely see them in the background, but before I go ahead and show them to you, we're gonna get some coffee and then find a better filming location than just in my driveway or in my garage. We're gonna do a couple shots to kind of like reveal the wheels. Obviously you guys have seen them, but it's been a while since I've done something that looks a little more on the cinematic side. So we're gonna try to do that, which means I need to find a location where I can do that. I got kicked out of the last one that I thought I had a location for doing so apparently I'm not gonna be able to go back there, but we'll find something. So let's go ahead and get right into it right now. Just Ford things. So we're headed to Dunkin' right now because it's close and convenient, and I do like Dunkin' coffee, but it's really funny because I've never felt so much like a teenage white girl more than when there's a building that's been being built pretty close to where I live for, I mean, a while at this point. I mean, several months. I think it started when it was still cold out. Now we're kind of getting back into that weather again. And this building's been being built, and it clearly has a drive-through on it. So my wife and I were theorizing what we thought it was going to be, and we weren't really 100% sure. And they just put up a sign recently that said Starbucks coming soon. And I was like unreasonably excited about the fact that there was going to be a Starbucks so close. And I don't really know how to feel about that, but whatever. I am who I am, I guess. But yeah, we gotta love Dunkin', because it's right now probably the closest coffee shop, or closest like coffee chain, I guess. There might be a handful of coffee shops that are maybe a little bit closer, which I normally prefer to go to those, like local businesses and stuff like that, but sometimes it's convenient to just go through a drive-through after you've like ordered ahead and just grab something real quick. Also, I know we haven't got to the wheels yet. Please just bear with me. I don't do this sort of like vlog format as much as I used to do, because I know that it takes a moment to get into the actual point of the video, but that's what we're doing today. That's what we have time for. Just bear with me. We'll get there, I promise. I'm not gonna waste too much of your time. Uh-oh. It's misting. I thought we were going to hopefully miss the rain a little bit. It doesn't look like that will be the case. Thank you very much. Yep, have a nice day. Windows down is the move in this car. It's too bad that it's like slightly rainy. I was almost a BMW there and I didn't signal. My bad. Okay, we are at our possible filming location. And this definitely feels like I probably should not be here. But I'm not going to be bothering anyone. I'm way off in the parking lot where you can see I am not by anyone at all. But I am right in front of the camera's not picking that up very well at all, but right in front of the Mississippi River. We got like some leaves changing and stuff. I think it'll be a really cool aesthetic. So we're just going to try to do this as quickly as possible and just get out of here and give ourselves minimal opportunity to get kicked out and instead just leave peacefully.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win at life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, put your hand to the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light, ain't got time to kill, I got time to feel, I took the red pill, I know life's short so I wanna live real, but how's it supposed to feel?
Well, we've made it back to the garage and it was nice and blustery out there, so rip my hair and on goes the hat, but Hopefully, as you can see, I am so happy with the wheel and tire setup on the Mustang, especially because on this specific occasion, I didn't even have to replace the tires. These tires just went right from the old wheels, which are over here, onto the new wheels, and everything looks really nice. And I'm totally not a stance guy, like, at all, but I do like the look of just a lightly stretched tire on occasion. So like, this is a 10-inch wheel. The tires up front are 255s, so they have a little bit of stretch, but it's nothing crazy. I think that it looks nice, and it also can help with fitment. If you want to have very aggressive wheel fitment, then you're gonna have to sacrifice tire a little bit, unless you trim or unless you want to have a higher ride height or whatever. So like I had said in the last video where we test fitted these are 20 by 10 plus 45 offset wheels, and they are really nice on this car. They fit really well all the way around. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the fitment of them. I'll show you just how everything fits in case you couldn't quite tell from the sort of like glamour shots that we just did, and also talk about just some other side points when it comes to wheel fitment, specifically with the Mustang, and how you should actually go about trying to achieve the fitment you were looking for on your car. So I got these wheels off of AmericanMuscle.com, and they are basically advertised as a rear wheel only. And as you can see, the fitment on the rear is pretty flush. You wouldn't want to go much wider than this because it's a solid rear axle, so you can't adjust for camber to try to clear anything too much wider. But you could probably do an 11-inch rear wheel with the right offset and still clear pretty well, because I don't think that this is anywhere near rubbing. It's just not quite flush, but really close. This is a very functional fitment that is about as close to being like kind of stancy fitment as I feel is reasonable when it comes to having a functional car, and it looks really good. But what's funny to me is, for being advertised as a rear wheel only, look at the fitment up front. We have plenty of space. This could go out, I mean, again, we could probably fit an 11-inch wheel up front, and it wouldn't be that hard to do. Now, with that being said, I do not know what the specs are, but this car, I think, has probably 2 to 3 degrees of camber. So if that wasn't the case, we would probably be a little bit closer to the fender at the top. But as it sits right now, there's a decent amount of space. I mean, this is not that close to being flush. And I believe, as I had said in previous videos, the reason that these wheels are called a rear wheel only on some sites is the fact that depending on the brake calipers that you have, like if you have the Brembo package on an S197 Mustang, you can run into clearance issues with the calipers. Although, looking at it right now, that doesn't look very likely with these, honestly. I'm sure they say that just to play it safe, but I mean, the Brembo brakes are about the actual diameter of the rotor is like 2 inches bigger than they are currently up front. So you gotta imagine that's only an inch further, and the brake caliper is a decent amount bigger than this one is. This is just a 2-piston floating caliper. That's a 4-piston fixed caliper. But even so, there is a lot of clearance currently between where this brake caliper is and the spokes. I really don't think you would have an issue fitting at least these exact wheels up front with the Brembo package. And that's something we'll probably find out in the future, because I'm probably going to put the Brembo brakes on this car because the stock brakes are meh at best. Plus, I don't like the blue calipers personally. I don't think they match literally anything on the car, and if we go with a red, it'll just kind of tie in the overall color scheme I have just that much more. But what I find hilarious about this is why you can't totally trust what forums say or anything, which, to be fair, I didn't. I also looked up a lot of pictures of fitment and did a ton of research, but a bunch of people on forums were like, ooh, I don't know if you can fit a 10-inch wheel up front. Oh, I don't know. Ooh, a 9-inch or something is probably about the widest you'd want to go. Maybe 9.5 if you're pushing it. Oh, 10-inch wheel, I don't know. Dude, there is plenty of space with a 10-inch wheel up front. Now, the thing about wheel fitment is that offset is literally everything. So just talking about the wheel width doesn't really mean anything without considering the offset. But I mean, with that being said, so many people were like, a 10-inch wheel with like a plus 45 offset is probably about perfectly flush. That's the widest you want to possibly go for clearance everywhere. From what I'm looking at right now, you could really easily run a 10-inch with like a 35 offset or a 33 or whatever. And you would probably be totally fine. The fitment would probably look better, and it would leave you more room on the other side for like the brake caliper clearance, with that potentially being a thing, and also like clearance to the strut, because that is actually pretty close right now as well. So although yes, forums can be helpful, make sure you also research your individual fitment and try to find photo evidence. Sites like Fitment Industries are really helpful for that. That will list the fitment with pictures of how everything fits and comments from the owner, if they do it correctly, on how everything fits. And don't forget that you can always do literal measurements in your garage on how your fitment is going to work on your specific car. Bust out the tape measure, put the work in, and you can get ideal fitment. It's not actually that hard to do. Just do your research. And like I said before, I think if we had stock camber settings, this would probably be pretty close, but I want just a little bit more. So what I'm probably going to do, especially because these wheels are not hub-centric or anything, is I'm probably going to get hub centering rings for the rear. I did that on my WRX2. It just makes taking the wheels on and off that much easier, and can potentially help with like vibration and stuff like that, though I think that people are probably a little bit dramatic about how important it is to be hub-centric over lug-centric. Realistically, this is going to center it perfectly fine if you have everything at the right torque spec. But either way, it's definitely a nice little additional safety net and is something that makes me feel good. So up front, I'll probably do a hub-centric spacer. So these hubs I think are 70.5 millimeters, and the bore in the wheel, like a ton of wheels, is 73.1. So I'll probably do like a 12 mil spacer that is hub centric, and just I think that will do the majority of what I want it to do to get even fitment front and rear. I don't really think the rear needs any spacer, especially because although I like where this tire is right now, I'll probably try to do like a 305 in the back when I change it. Right now it's a 285, and that sidewall is pretty much straight up and down. A 305 would probably be a little bit of a bulge and I think would look really nice. So especially with that being considered, I think that the rear tire is gonna be basically pretty much flush with the fender once we do that in the future. So it's already so close, I'm not really worried about it at the moment. Up front though, we can play around with the fitment with spacers and stuff no matter what tire setup we have, and we have a little bit more room to grow, if you know what I mean. But I mean, literally, I cannot express how happy I am about having these wheels on, because if we take a look at the old wheels, which are sitting over here, first of all, like I said, obviously like a chrome wheel or like machined finish of some sort. Also, these things are ridiculously heavy. They are so heavy. Like I don't normally get wheels that are specifically designed to be super lightweight because, you know, I don't really ever go to the track. Obviously having less unsprung weight is nice, but it's not like top of my priority list. And even with that being the case, it's not like these are crazy light wheels or anything, but they are certainly noticeably lighter than these behemoths are. My friend who mounted these tires for me, Nathan, which first of all, thank you Nathan, very much appreciated. This guy's awesome. He always helps me out when I need wheel and tire stuff done and never charges me anything even when I've offered before, so he gets free lunch instead. So thank you so much Nathan for mounting these tires for me. It came out perfectly, super happy with them. But he confirmed that I'm not crazy and that these wheels were definitely way heavier when we were moving them to the tire machine than these wheels were when we were taking them back. And another weird thing that we figured out is that these wheels are also reverse mount. So that's so strange because normally kind of like the point of reverse mount wheels, as long as I understand it correctly, is that they can, I guess, like have a different look to them up front, like the lip can look differently. But these don't look any different than you would expect a regular front mount wheel to look, but they're rear mount. When Nathan tried taking the tire off regularly, it was not working whatsoever, and it was an absolute breeze taking them off the rear. But it's so odd because both of the beads on the wheel are so thick. Like, it seems like no matter which way you go, it's kind of strange, but doesn't really matter. I'm probably not going to use these like ever again. But honestly, every single time I get in or out of the Mustang at this point, I just stand and look at it for like 3 to 5 minutes because I'm just so happy with how the wheels look. I mean, it really transformed it. Like, the paint on this car is not fantastic, but it's pretty decent. It's definitely the best paint I've had on any car that I have owned up to this point. And especially once I get some better stuff to do, like a good paint correction with like a polish and stuff like that for the hood and the roof, which are super obvious to see the swirl marks in comparison to the silver. I mean, it's gonna be a really good looking car, but these stupid wheels with their chippy paint, and I mean, I don't even really like the design of them in general. It just really let down the whole aesthetic of the car, but it's like just with that change, all of a sudden this went from like a car with potential into a pretty nice car. And it's amazing how all those little things, like, you know, the wheels and tires, not a small thing, but it's not like crazy. It only cost me $570 for these wheels. And changing out or painting the wiper arms so that they are not like super chippy, painting the rear deck lid so it actually looks nice, although right now it's super dirty, which I didn't actually show in video, but I did that and it's been in several videos now and I'm really happy with how it looks. It's like all of those things have come together. Oh, and the 5.0 badges. I almost forgot about that compared to these disgraces. It's like it just looks so much better. So by the time that we fix the weather stripping on the wiper cowl, which is the main other thing that's irritating me right now, get a new front lip since this one's damaged, and it's not my favorite front lip in the first place, the RTR front lip, or RTR style at least, and probably get a new rear spoiler just so that we can actually use the holes that are already drilled in the trunk, because I'm pretty sure those holes are for a California special spoiler. So we'll see. And also because this is like the only spot where there's like obvious paint damage on the car. So if we could use that and cover that up, that'd be ideal. It's like it just looks so good now. I've just been talking in the garage, just blabbing my mouth off because I'm so excited about it. Man, I'm just so excited. I like this car so much. Honestly, I love this car more than I even expected that I was going to when I bought it. It's such a good car. It's so usable, and yet it's fun, it's fast, it sounds great. It's just, I'm so happy with it. So that's a wheel and tire setup on the Mustang, and obviously I'm super pumped about it. So what's next for the Mustang? Well, I definitely have a few aesthetic things that I still want to do, like the things I'd mentioned, the front lip, doing the general paint correction, especially on the areas that are the two-tone, the black on the car. I think that alone would make it look a lot nicer too. In the future, I'd like to do a big brake kit like I had said, rear spoiler, all of those things are very aesthetic. Like, obviously a big brake kit has huge performance benefits and that's the main reason why you should do it. But something that people don't talk about enough is the huge aesthetic gains that a big brake kit gets you. They just look so gorgeous behind the set of wheels, especially if you have a nice set of wheels that has a lot of space to see behind them, kind of like these do. They just look so good. That was like my favorite thing about my 350Z when I had it, when I put the big brake kit on it. Especially that car, because with this one, there's not really like an affordable way to do a good big brake kit on the back. A lot of the things you can do just end up reusing the stock sliding caliper, which is kind of ugly, but oh well, at least the front will look really, really nice with those beefy front calipers. And that rear spoiler, I think, will do a lot to make this car feel more like my own as well. And then performance things, eventually, I do want to address as well, because one thing that's really annoying me, I have talked about this before, is that just weird hesitation that I get when downshifting. It's mostly at lower RPM. When you blip to do a rev match downshift, it just coughs and it doesn't want to actually like rev up. It's really annoying because everything on the data log shows that the car runs really well. The car feels like it runs really well every other moment except for those. And that has become much, much more noticeable over time. I think it might have been some of the adjustments that were made to the revised tune that's on the car now. Something to do with the fueling, maybe just made it slightly more likely that that was going to happen as the car has adjusted to that tune over time. I don't know, but it's happening a lot, and that's like the only thing about driving this car which annoys me. Because when it works correctly, it's a really easy and super satisfying car to do nice rev match downshifts with, but it's just not working that well at all recently. And considering everything is working pretty well, I have two theories for what it might be. One might be coil packs. They might just be getting a little bit worn out. It has new spark plugs on it, and it does have replacement MSD coil packs on it, but I don't know when those were put on. And I've heard some less than stellar things about how well those hold up. Because the one other thing that happens with this sometimes it's a long crank for it to start. Coil packs are something that evidently can really commonly cause that, as can like 100,000 other things, but that's beside the point. I think that might be what it is, so we might replace the coil packs with just some OEM coil packs in the future. They're probably realistically the best anyway. And the other thing I think it might be is the fuel pump. I would think fuel filter, but when they switched over to the Coyote on these, they took the inline filter out that was on like every Ford ever from the beginning of time up till now. And they have just like a fuel sock in tank. So if that's dirty with less than stellar fuel that's like contaminated it over time, it's possible that could cause our issue. And or the fuel pump might just be a little bit weak from just over time in general too. So if we were gonna replace that, I'd probably do an upgraded fuel pump, like a Deechworks DW400. Those don't require a tune or anything for you to replace them. And they flow more than the stock fuel pump. It's a pretty easy job to put them in. But it's just weird. It just feels like to me, when doing that like little rev match and the way that it doesn't quite blip up, it feels like the car expecting fuel and not quite getting enough. And it's such a quick event that I never actually see it on the data log file. Like I just don't think, because you know, that updates in real time, but there's always just a little bit of a delay from the information. So I don't know if that's just such a quick event that it never really shows, so it's really hard to tell for sure. But it feels to me like it's just a moment of being a little bit lean. So maybe that's the pump, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I've literally addressed so many other things on the car recently that should mean that none of that should be an issue. Obviously that's not what this video is about, so sorry for jibber jabbering on about that, like Taylor Ray would say. I don't know why I always bring him up on this channel, but he's a great channel, so I'm not apologetic about it. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what the issue is, but it's like, it doesn't run lean. The fuel trim shows that it's actually trimming back, like it has enough fuel flow most of the time. So you would think it wouldn't be the fuel pump, but I've heard similar issues because of the fuel pump. Could be coil packs, it could be so many things, I don't know. If I never figure it out, it's not the end of the world, but it's just so annoying. And I can't find any information about it. Every single time I look up like a hesitation or a cough or something like that, it's always like a much more extreme example than what I'm experiencing with this car. And if it changes over time to be more extreme, then it might be more obvious what the problem is. But at the moment, it's really hard to diagnose because the car runs perfectly fine 99% of the time. So I don't know for sure, I just don't know. But I digress. We've got a lot more plans for the Mustang in the future, so stick around if you'd like to see more content modifying and or enjoying my 2011 Mustang GT. This is probably the most fun car that I've ever owned. I absolutely love it, and I cannot see myself getting rid of it ever, but anytime soon at least, because I've said that about so many other cars, and you know, life happens. But I'm gonna keep this car for as long as I possibly can. I'm gonna continue enjoying it, and I'm gonna continue making videos about it, so stick around if you'd like to see that. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. We have already hit our goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers this year, so I very much appreciate that. So let's just see how far we can take this. And I wanna thank each and every one of you guys for watching. Once again, please consider liking this video if you enjoyed it as well, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Why do I feel like my outros are just getting less good the longer I do this? I don't know, man. It doesn't matter.